Okay, welcome everybody to the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Gilmer, and am a podcast engineer here. Excited to bring you another episode of the Ask Me Bridge Show with Suzanne Plumley. She do here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central, and love to have you check out all of our social media: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and so on. But I think there's nothing further than pass over to Suzanne yourself as our returning guest here. So, it's over to you, Suzanne.
All right. Thank you, Emily. And welcome, everybody, back to the Aspie Bridge. What a thrill this is going to be. We are going into the holidays now. And what a great time to help all of you come to the comfort level of knowing that we're going to be here to give you tips and tricks on how to deal with some of the more challenging times that you may come across. And Wendy is back to help us today. And I love having her here. She always brings such a conversation to our podcast, and what a thrill it is. But before that, with all the awesome Aspies that are out in this world, autism level 1 and autism level 2, they're out there in the world and they're telling you what the traits of autism are, such as Paul Micallef in Australia and Samantha Stein in the Netherlands. We also have Sarah Hendricks in the UK. Daniela last week was also from the UK. And then in England, I guess. And I always forget how those countries are divided up now. So please bear with me if I make a political or a boundary mistake. I don't do it on purpose. But then we also have Temple Grandin, as well as all the other wonderful Aspies that are out there in the world telling you what the traits of autism are. You don't need another autistic individual to tell you the traits. They do a great job of telling you. The mission of the Aspie Bridge is to bring people such as Wendy and all my other guests that came before her, all the ones that will come after her, to help you understand that going back into society is not something where you'll do it alone. I have eyes, as you've seen, everywhere now that are going to be watching out and making sure that you are treated respectfully. And before you get there, people like Wendy will be there for me to connect to. If you have a problem and I can't solve it as a coach, I'll be connecting you to people like Wendy and Jennifer and Chris and all the others who have come before her in their zone of expertise so that we can get a problem solved, a plan created. Again, we're not going to change you. We're making a plan so that you can better manage in society with the resources you never received before, because perhaps, like myself, you were in school, you went through high school and college before you even found out you were autistic. So, how are you supposed to know that you needed resources? But as we get older, we find that we're coming up against society and some of the different questions and saying, I better get some more resources. So, here's Wendy and everybody else to help you. And so, we're starting an exciting 10-week series now. We finished up with the Dream Builder program. Now we're going into abundant, joyful holidays, and they should be. They shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I'm going into the most stressful time of the year. That's not the idea here. The idea is to make you feel like you can handle this. With a few tips and tricks, you can handle this. And Wendy and I are here to the very first one. I love the title of this, if you don't mind my saying. Take the boo out of Halloween. And what that means is that our nervous systems are going to be going berserk as we go through all of these different holidays. The people jumping out of closets with bloody knives that are pretend, and going to Thanksgiving and finding that kind of smell that you're just not kind of comfortable with because it's just the way that someone prepares something with a particular spice that just makes you sick to your stomach, and how to get through politely, but yet taking care of yourself. We don't expect you to stay home. That's a big thing. We don't want you to stay home just because someone might throw curry into their stuffing, or someone may jump out of a Halloween party and scare everyone. We know what it's like. And let me tell you, after I reintroduce Wendy, I'm going to give you a story about my a Christmas situation. And yes, we're going to cover all the holidays today with your nervous system and the five senses, so that you can have a way to manage as we go forward October, November, December. And we even have someone for the New Year's. So I have the whole period of time covered. So I hope you'll come back as you need to and refer to all these different podcasts, so that when you come up against something tricky, you can come back to this one with Wendy and I and say, oh, my senses, my nervous system is just on high alert. What do I do? So before I get there, Wendy, would you like to reintroduce yourself to our listeners?
Well, sure. Thanks. My name is Wendell Whitcomb Marsh, but please call me Wendy, as Suzanne does, because we're friends. Um, and I had a long career and retired and went into, I had been working with preschool, um, assessing preschoolers for autism. But after I retired, I wanted to work more with autistic adults because my own late husband and two of my three kids were all late diagnosed with autism. We didn't know. They looked different from the little kids that I worked with because people look different. And now I founded a group practice called Adult Autism Assessment, providing assessment, also counseling and that sort of thing for people who have gone their whole life masking and now want to know if they're autistic. And most of the clinicians I hire are autistic themselves. So they are not going to say, oh, well, you made eye contact with me, so you can't be autistic, or any of
That's
those
a
things.
big one.
And I love this topic that Suzanne has about the sensory, because sensory overload. Oh, I should also say I love writing books, and the one that I just finished is the fifth in a 5-part book series called Adulting While Autistic. There's 5 different books in it: independent living, dating, relating, parenting, and working is coming out next year. Working while autistic. Um, but the sensory overload, especially at the holiday season, is real, and it does result in burnout. I think the 2 most important things to do for yourself are prep and recovery. And I'm talking about planned recovery. So if you know that you're going to have to go to a Halloween party, maybe at your church or at a family's, or maybe you're going to go trick or treating with your kids, first prepare about all the things. I know Suzanne's going to have a lot of ideas, things that might happen that you could be ready for, but then plan at least a full day afterwards to recover, because you need that time and you can't have any other appointments. You deserve to just shut down for a day, because that's a lot of sensory. And I hope that the people in your lives understand that this is real. These people are not being lazy. It is absolutely not laziness. And you may have read Devin Price's book, Laziness Does Not Exist. He also wrote Autism Unmasked. Great books. So it's not laziness. It is required to recover after a big sensory overloading event. And you deserve it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Thank you, Wendy. And I remember doing a small part with you in your autism while working. So I'm looking forward to that book,
Yes.
as well as your whole series. And I will be getting into that with all my days ahead of being on the road. You can bet that I'm going to find a way to be listening to all of those. But thank
Oh,
you. I'm so happy to have you back again. Your
good to be here.
information is always very valuable to all of us. And I'm a torchbearer, which what that means for some of you who don't know, or you're just coming in now, and I hope you'll subscribe to this channel, because I think it can really provide a lot of information. So even if you're scared to approach me, at least you're getting the critical information with myself and all my guests to know that you can get a little bit closer to the bridge. Being a torchbearer means that I've lived your life. Well, not your life, but I've lived my life with a lot of the sensory challenges, a lot of the rejection, a lot of the invalidation, and a lot of the family and outside society issues that come up against me. So I'm not going to be someone who doesn't understand. And I guess that's why I started this Aspie Bridge, is because I have wonderful people like Wendy in my life. And they're great for guests, but I think you all need to know that approaching me means that I totally get it. I've lived some of those experiences. So I'm not going to set you up to say, yeah, you can do it. You've got this. Go across the bridge. It's more than that. Just telling someone you've got this is great, but it's more than words. It's walking alongside the person, saying, let me help you go through this challenging part. I'm right here. I got your back. And that's a big thing that I don't think a lot of our families understand. They think that words alone will make us feel better. And I'm finding out personally that words alone do not make me feel better. Yes, it's nice to have positive supportive language. I was a positive supportive language coach before I was an autistic and trauma coach, so I get that. But we need to help our families, if they are supportive, to understand that words alone are not the resources. We actually need the action steps, the follow through. And one other thing I'd like to help you understand, which I've been coming against, contradicting messaging. Don't go and tell us that something is one way one day and then 3 days later it's another way. That's very confusing. Don't go and tell us that we're invited to come to Thanksgiving at 3 o'clock and then say, oh, by the way, we changed it to 1 o'clock. That's very challenging for us to change our schedules that quickly. Because if we had something, or we were planning that time to rest up, and then all of a sudden you're telling us that dinner is at 1 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock, that doesn't give us a lot of time. Which, let's go into our nervous system and how we need to prep our nervous system. Let me tell you, someone jumping out of a corner, even if it's for fun. Now, a lot of you can handle that. That's wonderful. A lot of you like the scary, gory movies. Great. Enjoy them. But if you have someone who's autistic in your group, be sensitive to that. If they say no, thank you, it's not that they don't want to hang out with you. It's because they know that their nervous system is going to get overwhelmed. If you ask them to go to a haunted house and they excuse themselves and say, I'll meet you up for coffee afterward, these are ways that they've learned how to self-cope and politely decline an invitation. And you need to know, as an Aspie, it's okay to politely decline. You don't have to go into explanation. Just say, no, thank you. But I heard you going out for coffee or this or that. I'd love to join you for that. Please call me when that time comes. And so the first is the nervous system. And before we get going, I want to tell you a quick story about Christmas. And now Christmas is a while away. And that's first where I start the snowball. Did you know that Halloween is when the snowball effect begins? We start with Halloween and that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we go into the holidays. And for an autistic person, the closer you get to Christmas and New Year's, we're a bottle of nerves at that point. And that's hard. And I remember being such a bottle of nerves that when it came time for Christmas morning as a child, long before I knew I was autistic, a long time, as soon as the presents were open, I found I had to go lie down. I was so much a bottle of nerves from the anxiety and the anticipation and everything, and my stomach hurt, and I just felt, and I'm like, why do I feel so bad on Christmas morning? I didn't understand it. Maybe some of you felt that way before you knew that you were autistic. Wendy, what would you like to add?
Well, this is just reminding me of a book I'm listening to right now. I had read it, and now I'm listening to it in the author's own voice. Marion Shambari, a friend of mine, found out that she was autistic later in life, I think in her late 30s. And she wrote A Little Less Broken. And it's beautifully written. And it really talks about some of these, it goes through her whole childhood, some of these overwhelming sensory things that she didn't understand why it was that way. It was just, she just thought she was broken. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And shall I show you what the cover looks like?
Please do. I would love to see it.
Yeah. I think they did a really beautiful job on her cover. A Little Less Broken by Marion Shambari. It's hardback, but if you do Audible, you can find it on Audible. You know, it costs a credit, I guess. You get credits on Audible. And
then let me just interrupt you for a moment. Are your books on Audible?
Many of them are. I am not in charge of that, but as far as I know, I find out just by people telling me, "Oh, I heard your book." It's like, how did you hear it? But there's one, Recognizing Autism in Women and Girls, is on Audible, and I think the person they chose to read it was very good. A couple others are also on Audible, and you know, they're not all perfect, but I don't think any of us are perfect, really.
No. Well, I bring that up because, as many people know, as you're traveling to these different family occasions, go ahead and do Audible. Instead of having music that's going to get you all excited while you're driving, if you are the one who's driving, sometimes a book on tape allows you to focus, but then listen at the same time. And I find it sometimes a lot easier than music. So why not jump into Wendy's books or jump into this other book and really get to know more about yourself? That's the first key to understanding autism, is knowing more about yourself. So go ahead, Wendy. Was there anything else you wanted to add about the nervous system?
Well, there are so many parts of it, and we've mentioned that there's an overlap, and smell and taste are closely linked, but also taste and texture, because it's not just the clothing textures, it's also, as we were talking about before, the food textures.
That's right.
Some people need to bring their own food, you know, and if the people who invite you for Thanksgiving or Christmas know that you're autistic, then they should be fine with you saying, I just need to bring some, you know, macaroni and cheese or chicken nuggets or whatever it is, so that there's a familiar food that you're comfortable eating.
That's right.
Yeah. And
that's
I know
right.
some people,
yeah, we'll go through each of those because I'm sure we can go more into depth in that, but that is very good. Very great information to share as we head into this. So anyway, the nervous system, I don't know about any of you, but I can sometimes feel my nervous system shaking. And that's when you need to sit back and take that time to say, okay, come into awareness. Notice what I'm noticing. What did I last do that would have set my nervous system on alert? Did I have something that was stressing me out? Sometimes money, sometimes finances around our money, because we are challenged with that. Is it family members that don't understand you? So notice what you're noticing with your nervous system. Are you shaking? And I've had a lot of that lately because I've been going through some of my own ordeals. So I need to sit back and realize what might have caused it so that you can self-regulate and find out what needs to be done. Now, the next thing are all of the sights, the lights. Think of all the lights that you come up against at Christmas time. Well, first, let's talk about Halloween. Now, orange and green are very subtle. And even purples, they're easy to take for our eyes until someone starts a strobe light in their yard. And what you may need to do is, a couple of days before you get to Halloween, drive around different areas, particularly if you have little ones and you're going out for trick-or-treating. Take a ride around your neighborhood. See where the lights are strobing. And try and edge your children in another direction. And that's going to make it more pleasant for you, because there's nothing harder for your kids than to see their mom uptight while they're trying to have fun. And that's a hard thing. Now, maybe you have some children that are also autistic. That's another reason to be especially careful with lighting. And there are a lot of people that like strobe lighting, particularly at Halloween time. And so making yourself aware of where those lights are, they can be challenging. If they're steady lights, I don't know about anyone else, but if they're steady lights, I'm okay. I don't like the neons. I'll stay away from neons too. I'm not much into neons unless they're painted, but actual lighting, I'll stay away from that. What can you tell us about lighting and flashing and such, Wendy? What kind of tricks might you have?
I think that's really important to avoid the strobe lighting. Another thing, especially with little kids, is masks. Masks on little kids, their vision is just reduced. And I think for adults too. I would say, do face painting if you want, or just leave your face the way it is. We don't have to decorate up our face. But I would say avoid masks because it's a feeling of being enclosed and the vision is really limited. And that's a safety issue.
Oh,
If
wow.
if you don't mind the texture of paint, then your face painting is fun. But I love your idea of finding out where the strobe lights are going to be and avoiding them, because a lot of people, and of course it can trigger seizures for people who that's a risk for. So knowing what to avoid is very smart.
Very smart. And as I said, you don't want your kids to see you all upset and nervous and on Halloween. This is supposed to be fun for them. Now, that brings me into sound. I don't know how many of you are troubled by 500 doorbell rings if you live in a busy neighborhood. That's another thing you need to take into account. Are you in a busy neighborhood where you get doorbell rings on a regular basis? Because what you may need to do is, if you have a friend who will come and help to hand out candy that day, who isn't affected, and maybe you need to go and put on headphones and make your costume into a rock star with headphones on and everything, and they wouldn't know the difference. But you need to take into account those doorbell rings. And I don't know about any of you, but I don't like Christmas music before Thanksgiving. So some sounds, you need to be prepared. Have your headphones ready for those sounds that can be rather challenging. How about the number of times the doorbell rings when you're at a Thanksgiving party and relatives are showing up? Can you think of any other sounds that might be challenging, Wendy?
Well, some of the houses, in addition to strobe lights, have automated shrieks and howls as well as music. I went to drive through to buy some coffee the other day at a little small place near me, and sitting out on the shelf where you go to the window to order was a little Halloween scary clown, and it was like shrieking and crazy laughing, and it was really loud. And the people working there were saying, "I'm so sorry, the owner came by and put that there, and we don't know how to make it stop." I told them the tip of take out the batteries, and they said they would do that as soon as I left. But those things, and I'm not autistic. It was annoying to me, but I was able to through it. But the poor woman who was working there, and every time a car drives up, it's like motion activated, and it just kept going the whole time I was there. It was so annoying. So if you find places that might have that kind of shrieky thing, see if you can avoid those houses. Sometimes that goes along with the houses with strobe lights. So just give it a miss.
Right.
And I love the idea of incorporating headphones into a costume. It can be under a hood. You can put ears on the headphones, There's any number of things you can do, like you mentioned. Now, I wear loops when I go to the movies. I'm not autistic, but those movies are too loud for me. And the loops let me hear, but it just tones it down a little bit so that it's manageable. So that's something that I have used. But the noise canceling headphones, so many people I know just swear by them. And yeah, wear them wherever you want and just decorate them if you like, Halloween them up.
True. That could go from scary pumpkin to reindeer horn.
That's right. Reindeer for Christmas. Yeah. Or put little turkey feathers on it for Thanksgiving.
What a great craft idea for even kids. Wow. That way they're not feeling like they're out of place. Although the nice thing about headphones is more and more people are wearing headphones these days. So it's not like it was about 10 years ago where it's like, oh, we stood out in a crowd because we were wearing headphones. And I have big red headphones too. And so it's funny, but it's like, I go to a place where headphones are worn a lot. Of, oh, good, there's another set of headphones. There's another, because I can't wear things inside my ears. And I'm sure there are a lot of other autistic individuals that going into the feeling of having something up against that eardrum or that ear canal. I can't do it. Can you do it?
I can do the inside or the outside, but I know other people who can do the inside, but they don't want anything on the outside touching their ears. So they can't do headphones. So there's like, everybody's unique, but there's something for everybody. There's a solution.
There is a solution. Absolutely. Absolutely. There was one other thing I was thinking. Repetitious songs. Do you find that any of your kids have trouble with, they either want a song over and over again, or they can't stand it when something repeats again, it's on a loop. Now, when I'm sleeping, I don't mind a looped music. But when I'm awake during the day, I can't hear that song again. Do you find
I
your
think
kids have any of that?
Yeah, there's a preference. If it's a song that people love, there are some songs that we play every single day. But if it's not your choice and it's being imposed on you repetitively, I think most of us find that annoying. But my autistic people, it can be super annoying because it's that sensory experience. Whereas another song might be, play that one all day. That one makes me feel good. And
I can think of one song which I do not even want to hear once, and that's Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Yeah.
that one's just grates on me. Even the first time I hear it, I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, thank you. We don't need that mental image. Thank you anyway.
No, exactly. And we are very visionary. I'm glad you brought that up. We are visionary. And I know for me with lyrics, my brain's going when I'm listening to lyrics, any lyrics. So, I mean, there aren't a lot of Halloween songs. And we know that unfortunately Thanksgiving did not get their share of celebration or decor. But that's why a lot of commercial stores start Christmas music like the day after Halloween. So we need to be on high alert. November 1st. Be prepared. If you don't want to hear Christmas music that early, I suggest staying away from the stores or wearing your headphones. Exactly. Because it's going to happen. You're going to start to, it's cute to hear that first Christmas song of the season. And I like to say, oh, this was the first song of the season. And then it's like, okay. I mean, now I like my Christmas music, and as long as it's on shuffle, so I'm not hearing the same person over and over again, that's another consideration. If you find, because I know I love Randy Travis, but his voice can wear on some people if it's the whole tape all at once. But if you put Randy Travis on a shuffle, in your playlist, whether it's on your phone. I happen to have a 25 CD player. I put it on a shuffle there. Love Randy Travis. Nothing against him, but he has a very distinct voice. And so you need to know. And I don't think there's anything wrong if you're at a location and someone's playing the same. It's like, huh. And here's how you can say it. This is where tactful information comes in. Do you think your system might have a shuffle? If you ask it in the form of a question to the host, they may not have considered it. They're busy, they're shuffling around, they're making sure everything's going right, they're making sure the turkey's not going to burn. They're not going to be thinking about what's playing on the music. Yeah, it's in the background for them, but they're not going to be aware. So if you were to go up and say politely, I'm wondering if your music has a shuffle on it. There's nothing wrong with asking it in a question form, because people don't take offense at a question. Let's go on to the next one, which is all of the textures. I like that. I just want to keep track of our time here. Textures, and as Wendy says, I was trying to remember. I'm like, sight, smell. Oh, we got to go back to smell again. Sight, smell, sound, and textures. And I'm like, why can't I think of the next one? And Wendy said, taste. I'm like, oh, I was thinking of textures one and the other. So let's go back and say, now, I don't know about all of you, and you can start to think about this. When it comes to Halloween candy, I'm a Tootsie Roll fan. And candy corn, 3 Max. And it's all about knowing our different textures of what we like. I can only eat so many Reese's peanut butter cups before I'm like, Wendy, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, I like Reese's Pieces. They look like M&Ms, but they're peanut butter inside.
Oh, there's a way to get peanut butter in a smaller dose.
And it's completely coated. So if you have someone with peanut allergies in the house, you can pop them in your mouth and eat them, and there's no peanuts in the air. So it helps if you live with someone with a peanut allergy and you can't have the peanut butter cups because you take a bite and then there's peanut, dust or whatever. Then Reese's Pieces are a good option. It's just little, candy coated peanut butter.
That's brilliant. I never knew that. What a great tip. I knew you'd have a tip up your sleeve.
Now, I should warn, because I'm not a doctor, in our family, because it's just a peanut sensitivity, it's not a deathly allergy, that works. But if you have someone who is very allergic to peanuts, check with their doctor before you bring in Reese's Pieces, because it's not a guarantee that they won't be affected. In my family, it's okay because it's not, it's not a life-threatening allergy. So I just want to get it on the table. Check with your doctor.
Exactly. Know thyself is a big part of today. Know thyself, know your loved ones. And
yes.
Just because we say something, you always want to make sure you're checking with any authority that knows your child better than we do. You know that. Know thyself, know thy children. And I think that's the best practice. We are here to give you general information that you might not have thought about. But we're not officials. You need to check into some of these different things before you go about saying, well, they said it was okay. No, we're not saying it. We're just saying for the general population demographic of autism, this might be something you can consider. And I use that word consider very strongly because you want to be careful of your own health. You got to know yourself. Yeah. Now, as I say, I want to come back to smells because cooking is a big part of the holidays. But let's come back to textures and everything. So when it comes time for textures, Wendy, let's first talk about the food textures. Well, no, let's leave that for the other because we're going to go into taste. Let's talk about the textures. Costumes. If your kids are itching themselves and scratching themselves, don't be afraid to give up that Halloween costume at the last minute. Or, as I like to do, is I used to throw a hoodie or if they're really little, the blanket sleepers can go underneath a costume. I used to make that for my girls when they were really little. I used to make blanket sleepers, which are this little kid outfits that zip down. They're warmth and they provide a layer of protection under all of those itchy costumes. I don't know if they make as many of the itchy costumes as they used to when we were in the 70s, where you put on this, I'm not even sure what the texture of that was. It's kind of like a combination of a garbage bag and
Yes, it's
there are a lot of kids that just might not work for them. And they're going to be crying because they're like, Mommy, my costume doesn't work. Or for you, that Halloween has a lot of netting and such. That's another texture that you may want to think twice about. Do you really want to put on that netting pantyhose or whatever to go to a party? Think about what your texture tolerances are. Try it a couple of days before. Let the kids dress up for Halloween like today. I mean, Halloween's 2 days away. Let them try on their costume for lunchtime. Make it a fun time. Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah,
I see you ready to jump in.
I just thought of, you can also practice trick-or-treating if they're young, because the idea, if they've all their life, every other day of the year, you knock on the door, someone answers it, you walk in. That has been a learned little routine. But suddenly you knock on the door, but you don't walk in. So that's a good thing to practice at different doors around the house and maybe give them a little treat. And, if they want to say trick or treat and thank you, but if they can't say that, that's okay too. Another thing about costumes, my kids were comfortable in sweatpants and sweatshirts. It's like they could wear that all the time. So one year, my oldest has always been and still is really into cats. So black sweatshirt and sweatpants, a tail, little ear things, and then they're a cat. Paint on some little whiskers. And my other one was into Power Rangers one year. So just whatever I think it was the white Power Ranger. So we got a white sweatshirt, sweatpants, and then just took puffy paints and drew those lines of whatever the Power Rangers symbols were. And there they were, perfectly comfortable, the same kind of clothes feeling that they wear every single day, but now it's a costume.
Exactly. That brings back such memories because I have an October baby and she always had a Halloween party, a costume party for her Halloween. And it was a great time for me to get a costume made. I'm a sewer, so I would make a lot of her costumes. I made Cat in the Hat one year out of a blanket sleeper. But yeah, I mean, if you can make a little Halloween party before the big day, and let them have fun. Maybe one of their classmates has a Halloween birthday party. Great time to practice. Now, I had heard that a blue pumpkin, they've created this. I don't think I've seen it any other year. This is the first year. A blue pumpkin signifies that the child may not say trick or treat at the door because they are autistic. And there are a lot of people that will go up. They're trying to really get this out in the marketing now to say that if you see a blue pumpkin, don't expect that child to say trick or treat. I love it. Because a lot of people are like, no candy unless you say trick or treat. Think of these poor children that are like autistic and they're not going to say it. But now look for the blue pumpkins and just make eye contact and smile.
I have heard that. And also age. You might have an older autistic child who looks too tall to be trick-or-treating, but in their heart, they still want to trick or treat. And some people are saying, look for the blue pumpkin, which is important. But other people are saying, even if there's not a blue pumpkin, that doesn't matter. Just do that for everybody. Assume that everybody may or may not be able to talk. Because the blue pumpkin is starting, but not everybody has heard of it. So we hope that people will just be nice to everybody. And if you see a tall kid, think, well, they're choosing to be Halloween like a child rather than to go out, throwing eggs or drinking or whatever older kids do. They're choosing childhood, and let's give them a piece of candy.
How many times we have candy left over? Why not?
my last year trick-or-treating, I was very, very tall for my age. I was about this tall when I was still in elementary school, like 5'6", 5'7". And my best friend and some other friends were extremely short. So I really stood out. And I remember going trick-or-treating with them and having people smile and give it to my friends and then look at me with a kind of like, aren't you too old to be trick-or-treating? It's like, we're all the same age.
Yeah.
But it was an awkward feeling to be like, I can't help it that I'm tall. So you hope that everybody treats all trick-or-treaters with the same love and compassion. And if they do have a blue pumpkin, then you know the sign. And if they don't have a blue pumpkin, do it anyway.
It's a piece of candy. It's not like they're asking for $5. It's a piece of candy. Have fun.
Yeah.
Maybe you can ask the older children a question. Hey, make it fun for them. Make it just as much fun for them. And I love the idea of having the kids knock on the doors around the house to get practice because a lot of times these children are going to get up to the door after going through all of the graveyards and such, and they're just going to be so scared of how you decorate your house that they're going to be, just compassion. Compassion. That's the best way to handle it. Compassion.
Perfect.
You for yourself, you for your children, you for other children. It doesn't matter. Compassion goes a long way. Now, some of the things we were talking about all of the textures. Be aware of what you can wear. Be aware of what your children can wear. And that shouldn't go far. Now let's go over to the food side. Things. Halloween.
Actually,
go ahead.
Can I do one more thing about texture? And I'm jumping into Christmas.
Oh, no, go right ahead. I would love you to.
Well, thanks. A lot of times, family members really don't get how important, like if they don't see the kid all the time, if they're like far away and grandparents and aunts, and this is for adults too, but we might get presents that we cannot possibly wear. My late husband, his mom always gave him like polyester shirts. He couldn't wear it. And then she would say, oh, but this one is like 80-20. I mean, you have to have some polyester or you'll have to iron it. Well, he loved to iron and he couldn't stand the feeling of polyester, so he couldn't wear those shirts. And if it's ribbing, but things that you can help your kids learn to say would be like, oh, look at that color. It's so pretty, or say, wow, that was so thoughtful of you, or make a comment on how it looks. And then, maybe they can exchange it for something else later. But it's hard for kids to get a present that they cannot wear. And I think for adults too, and to know what to say.
Yes.
Thank you. You can always say thank you. You can always say thank you, even if you hate it, because they were thoughtful. You can always make a comment on something about it. It looks so colorful. Not, it feels good because, it feels terrible, but look at that color. There are things you can say honestly, because nobody should lie. And the autistic people I know will not lie. It's like they're honest people to the core. So if you can find a true thing to say about it that is kind, say that thing. So
exactly.
I love that you thought of me. I'm thinking color because I love colors. So if you can comment the color of it or the style or whatever, and then if you don't wear it, they might not know that you're not wearing it.
Very true, very true. And then if they say to you, "Well, why not you? Why aren't you wearing it?" Oh, I had another favorite outfit I really had planned for today. And that sometimes
Yeah.
goes a long way. Oh, I had this favorite outfit I was looking forward to.
Yeah, or just, oh, I don't know, maybe it's in the laundry,
Another good reason. Tactful
Yeah.
communication is going to be very important at this time of year because you
Yes.
are seeing a lot of people that you haven't seen in a while because of distance or because now extended families getting involved in some of these holidays where it used to be just the nucleus of the family. So you really need to know that there are a lot of differences that go on at this time of year that you don't experience at other times of year. Let's just, at the end, I'm going to talk about some of the ways of handling the extra people. But let's finish up by saying about food textures. Now, you're at the Thanksgiving table, and I think Thanksgiving is even a bigger food holiday than the other two. Halloween we know is candy. Christmas is an assortment, and usually it's a lot more sweets. But Thanksgiving is the whole gamut, from turkey to all different kinds of side dishes to the pies. And sometimes people have a recipe that they've been cooking traditionally for years. In Girl Scouts, we used to have what is called a no thank you serving, which means it's a polite way of saying, I'll put some on my plate to make them feel better. Only about a teaspoon, a regular spoon you take out of your kitchen. I'll take a spoonful. I'll put it on my plate to make them feel better. That doesn't mean you have to eat it. You can put it on your plate, say thank you, pass the plate along. That's a way to get across, because I know a lot of people get very kind of take it personally. What? You don't like my candied yams? And this,
Yeah.
try them. That doesn't mean you have to actually eat them. So take a
Yeah.
no thank you serving.
Yeah.
Now, there are going to be some people who make stuffing with a lot of breading. Now, a breading texture can be really funny for some people. I know a lot of bread in my system. You again, the no thank you serving will get you by nicely. Not everybody eats every single thing on their plate. And yes, you can go back for seconds without eating that item. They're not going
Yeah.
to be scrutinizing you and like,
And you can
what would
hide
you
it,
add, Wendy?
if you can, smash it down or hide it and make it look like you've interacted with it, then that doesn't mean you've eaten it, but that it's not the exact same shape that it was when you put it on your plate, just and to be able to say no thank you to, seconds or thirds, maybe to just have a little script like, oh, it's so, it's so good, or thank you so much, but I'm fine. All right, or no thanks, that's enough for me, or whatever it is, to be able to just reuse your same script every time. If they're being pushy, then just repeat your same script. It's like, thanks, it looks great, but I'm fine. Thanks, but I'm fine. And just try to keep saying it the same way every time and not get irritated, because they're coming from love, even if they're incredibly annoying and trying to push those candied yams on you. They're coming from a place of love. So if you can continually do your thanks, but I'm fine. No more, I'm fine. And just practice it as a script that could be at the same level of calmness every time. And
Yeah,
not, if you cannot let it escalate to stop asking me.
yeah.
Because none of
Well,
us
it's
can
funny.
do that. Is what?
Exactly. Now, it's funny. What I find sometimes is that we all have different ways that we cook things. And I love yams when they're mashed, but taking them out of the Bruce's can and just throw them in a pan with marshmallows over them, that's why I kind of use candied yams. It's kind of like, You can tell the texture of the
Yeah.
yams before you even put it on your plate and say, oh, that looks like an interesting dish. I mean, there's no reason why you can't be polite.
Right.
Interesting with a smile is a lot better than, well, that looks interesting.
And
It's all the way.
you
Go
can
ahead.
say it looks good, which could mean it's a pretty color. Or I like the way the marshmallows are browned on top. You can say it looks good without meaning it looks like it tastes good. You know, it can look good, and they're hearing it looks like it tastes good, but you just said it looks good or it looks great. You know,
Exactly. Exactly. So there are a lot of ways to get around food at the holidays. And you do want to make sure that if you are very particular,
yeah,
bring along the snacks. Or if they have a vegetable tray out before the dinner, you can indulge a little extra on the vegetables and just say, whoa, I just ate a lot for of hors d'oeuvres or whatever. But that way you're getting your nutrition and you're getting enough to eat. And then when you get to the table, you're just taking a bunch of different no thank you servings and just pretend you're eating it and getting along with everybody. They're not going to be scrutinizing what you're doing. A lot of people think, oh, they're going to be looking at me and what I'm doing. They really aren't. And if you can get into a conversation about something else, it will distract them. So try and sit next to someone that you do have a conversation with. We're going to get
yes.
into that in a moment. But yeah, food is a big one for this time of year. Your tastes, your textures, they're going to be playing interesting anxieties on you.
Mhm.
So know thyself again. What can you eat? What can you enjoy? And how can you distract from what you're eating? Come up with a conversation that means something. So if you're sitting next to someone that you don't know, find out about them and things like that. There are different ways to get through the holidays. And then nothing means more than excusing yourself at the end of Thanksgiving and saying, "Wow, that was great. I am so full and I'm tired now. Thank you for having me. Have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving," and leave. You don't have to sit there and watch the next two football games. Know yourself, know what you're able to be around people. And that's a big thing for the holidays. You're going to be coming up with people you haven't seen in maybe a year, 2 years. That doesn't mean you have to be the belle of the ball. You can go home. You can come almost with, you can't come right at dinner time. That's not polite. You should say, can you tell me what time you expect to be serving your meal and plan an hour before? Because there
Or
are
just,
some, go ahead.
or you could just say, "What time do you want me to arrive?"
Yeah.
And then if they want you there an hour before dinner, great. And if they want people to show up at dinner because they're busy cooking, then maybe an hour before would be awkward for them. So just say, "What time should I arrive?" And then get there
Mm-hmm.
that. And
That
if
would be
it's
good.
people who, if the host is someone who knows you and knows that you're autistic, you can tell them at the beginning or ahead of time, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm aware of my own sensory and social limits and overload. If I have to leave early to avoid becoming overloaded and, you know, burnout or whatever, I will just slip out quietly, but I want to know how grateful I am to be included. And if I have to slip out quietly, then thank you in advance, um, for the people who know
Perfect.
you. And hopefully they will know and understand. Somebody there is going to know and understand where you're coming from.
Wendy, yes, thanking people in advance. What a terrific way to not make a big deal of your exit. That's wonderful. I think that a lot of people can really take advantage of that whole idea. just go off to a time when the hostess is not in the middle of carving the turkey, of course, because they're not going to remember. But find a quiet time, like, well, she's maybe enjoying a cup of cider or something, and say, I just want to let you know I appreciate the invitation. But if I slip out early, please know I'm very appreciative of this invitation. And then you're free to go when you want. Now, if others say, oh, come on, sit down, watch the game, I'm sorry, I have another family I need to visit with or something. I mean, there are times when a small white lie will not hurt you as much. I have other family members I'd like to see, or I have to get home for my cat or dog or whatever. And that may very well be the truth, is you cannot leave the animals alone for too long. That's a perfect excuse. I gotta get home for my cat. Thank you very much for having me. And that just gets other people who are not the hostess to not bully you in a playful way to stay longer than you're ready to stay. So, Wendy, I think we've covered all the avenues. Can you think of anything else we should add today?
I can't think of anything new, but I do want to emphasize planned recovery time, preparation, and we've talked about a lot of preparation type things, but planned recovery afterwards. It's okay to just do nothing for a day or two, however long you need to get your strength back. You deserve that. You deserve that recovery time.
Absolutely. Oh, Wendy, it's been such a pleasure to have you back again. I'm hoping I can find a couple of times in 2025 to have you. In the meantime, everybody, if you are going on an hour or two long car ride, consider downloading Audible. Consider allowing yourself that time to really soak in some of these great books that we were talking about today to help you get through the holidays. So whatever it takes to bring yourself to a state of relaxation. Now, they say that a hurricane can happen all around you, but if you can find a place of calm, even in the middle of family members, couple of deep breaths, find that calm inside of you. And if you need to go outside and have a breath of fresh air, maybe you'll start a trend in the family. I did that one time during my dad's memorial service. I just had to go outside and get a breath of fresh air. Pretty soon I had 5 people out there enjoying the fresh air with me. So you never know, but do what you need to do for you. Don't consider, excuse me, as long as you're not being rude. Know thyself. Know what you need to do. Take the recovery time that Wendy was talking about, and take the time beforehand to get ready. Halloween, go look at the lights. Think about putting the headphones in the back of the car or wherever you store them. So if you need them, think of all the things you can pre-plan ahead of time for the holidays. And when we get into shopping, that will be another time to really guard your ability. Maybe you have to get up first thing in the morning and go to the stores before they get busy. If you're claustrophobic, you just need to know thyself as we go through the holidays. If you have any questions about today's program, or if you'd like to ask Wendy a story, I invite you to come to the Facebook group page, the Aspie Bridge. You can ask questions there. I would love you to subscribe to this channel so that you can know when it's coming every week, because we come live. Please join the Facebook page. And now I have a Patreon channel called Aspie Bridge Builders, which I also welcome you to come in and read some of my articles there. I'm an avid writer like Wendy. I do it in blog form so that it's easy for you to read over your morning coffee and just enjoy whatever information. I write 7 days a week too, so I'd love to have you come on and be a member and comment and get involved in some fun writing. So it's called Aspie Bridge Builders on Patreon channel. And I'd love to have you come and join me there. I'm really trying to get out the information on how you can be served as an autistic individual in whatever platform serves you best. Do you prefer to read? Do you prefer to watch a video? Do you prefer to get involved in other people? My Aspie Bridge Facebook group page is a mixture of both neurotypical and neurodiverse individuals, and we are really very helpful to each other. One of my ladies who is here and she's watching today, Marilyn, has come on and done a lot of really great quotes and everything to make you feel better. It's just a joyful time of your day to see this little statement or this poem that can really rise your spirits. So I invite you to the Aspie Bridge page on Facebook, the Aspie Bridge YouTube podcast, and the Patreon Aspie Bridge Builders, whatever way you'd like to be a part of this. We'd love to have you. Wendy, I want to say thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. I hope to have you again very soon.
I'd love that. Thanks.
Perfect. And for all of you, I hope you'll come back for the next 9 podcasts for the rest of Abundantly Joyful Holidays, so you can really have a joyful holiday season instead of a stressful one. Thank you so much for coming today, and I will see you next week on the Aspie Bridge.